it's me, Sushreeya, and today I'm going to be talking about something, and it's really interesting. I hope you'd like it. It's climate. And now when I say climate, you guys might be thinking, oh yeah, climate, weather. But actually, climate, it does have to do with weather, but it's not exactly weather. Interesting. What climate really is that patterns, and it's not just locally, it's yearly. And the pattern yearly, and it's very similar. It's a very similar type of pattern. And it happens in a specific area. But that has to do with the weather. So continuous patterns that are very similar due to the weather. That's what climate is. And now climate can depend on many things. And most of the time it depends on our pollution and global warming. We're just disturbing nature, that's all. And when we do pollution of course makes our world worse, which means climate has to change. If pollution and global warming wasn't happening this much, it would almost every season change would almost be a good one. Let's dive into what is a climate region. If we take a graph of a specific place, say for example Chile. Chile, it's very tropical of course because it's near the equator. So it will have a lot of fogginess and a lot of moisture, and it will be having a lot of precipitation of course, because if it's tropical, it should have a lot of rainforests. So for Chile, their climate is basically tropical. It has a lot of precipitation and sunny weather. Now I have some printouts and we can talk about them and see what they will be like. First, on top I have Canada. Canada is a very temperate, or has a very normal climate. It has a lot of forests and mainlands where there's rivers, and the climate is very normal. But as season change, it's just going to change a bit. And due to that, that's just going to make it change a bit, but every year it should be a similar pattern. Next on stop is Arizona. Arizona is really dry with a lot of cacti and deserts, for example, correct? And cacti is just another word for cactuses. And there's a lot of mountains, for example, the Monument Valley, as shown in this picture. And it's very desert-like there. There might be a lot of droughts, but still, there's very little precipitation. Next, we have equator. Yes, I know equator, it's a line on Earth, but there's also a place called equator. And on equator, it's very, very tropical, but though it's very hot there. Still, as you see this little fog all the way going around, that means we should have a lot of precipitation at the equator. And in equator, there's a lot of green land because the sun and the rain, they work together to make this place a very tropical area, but though it can be very hot and very rainy. Now we have Alaska. It's pretty confusing actually to say because cool, we don't exactly mean cold. So when I say warm, I'm not saying hot for climate. Hot is for weather, warm is for climate. Similarly, Alaska is cool, unless you're talking about it in weather. If you're talking about it in weather, this would be chilly or cold a bit. So if you're talking about climate, you have to use specific words and make sure you're not using the wrong words as doing to weather. So Alaska is very cool, as for where there's a lot of lakes, most of them are frozen, and there's a lot of mountains there. And there could be a lot of pine trees and some Christmas trees there. And finally, our last stop, Antarctica. We can say it's very cold or chilly, but again, we have to use the climate words. Polar. But if we talk about Antarctica has changed. These ices used to be big parts of big glaciers and icebergs. As for now, they're very small. But still, the climate is almost the same. It's very cold or polar there, and it's getting warmer and warmer. But then what can determine climate? We can say some forecasts do, but that's halfway correct because we're not talking about weather. Remember, it's climate. So we can use latitude and air currents to determine. If I show you, let's say, a map, let's say there's an invisible one, and I draw lines with specific colors on the ocean, the wind, we know what is precipitation as, is that when air goes out and then it becomes very small water drops and then it rains down again. We call this a water cycle, of course. I hope you know that by now. But then, if we're talking about what determines, the wind can take the water's coldness or the hotness of it and sway it with the wind. But then the whole earth is not water. There's also some of that's our land. And when we're talking about some that are land, the wind will go. And that can also change due to pollution and global warming. But if we talk about pollution, most of it is air pollution. So then most of the global warming is also air pollution. So if it's a lot of factories are making smoke these days, but that will make the wind more hot and rusty and bad. So now our world, when that wind's coming, it's changing a bit by getting hotter and hotter, or we should say warmer and warmer. So most of our climate, we should say, is due to us humans, how we act, and if we disturb the nature by the pollution and global warming. So it's almost like pollution is what equals to the changes of climate. Climate can change in many ways as latitude, air currents, but when we use these resources of ours, we can do this to, just like we forecast weather, to forecast and determine what will climate be like. And because of we're using these, we're actually, now scientists, they've been using these resources. So they're not really using any machines, well they are, but that measures the wind. So they're thinking of these things, these latitudes, and then longitudes, and then air currents, so we can track how climate has been. But due to pollution, the climate and global warming in 2016 has been the warmest. So because of that, now it's getting a little colder, but it's still very hot and humid now. So what is climate again? Trivia. Climate is not weather exactly. It's the patterns of yearly or monthly weather as we use them, and sometimes we can use this to track or determine, or we can just keep this as some data to report and record stuff for years. If you have questions, put them in the comments. Have a good day. Subscribe, like, comment. Have a good day. See you soon. Bye, my friends. Hope you have a good day.